Yeah, you know what time it is. It's time for the Geekenders podcast. MegaRan, Jesse and Dodger, what up? Let's go. Yo, it's the weekend. Yeah, it's time to geek out. Let it begin. Go on, stream and shout. It's Jesse and Dodger, so give them a follow and see what the Geekenders are all about. Yo, it's the weekend. Yeah, it's time to geek out. Let it begin. Go on, stream and shout. It's Jesse and Dodger, so give them a follow. #1 geek podcast, without a doubt. Yo, another end of another long week. Got a job and a kid, I know that you all beat. So take a second, grab a drink and vibe while we catch you up in just a matter of time. On gaming, comics, whatever you're doing. If you're nerdy like us, then you know you should tune in. Thank you for sharing our world with us. Now follow, subscribe, and turn this up. Yo, it's the weekend. Yeah, it's time to geek out. Let it begin. Go on, stream and shout. It's Jesse and Dodger, so give them a follow. #1 geek podcast, without a doubt.
And welcome to Geekenders with your hosts, Jessup and Duger.
Hello. Oh my goodness.
How are you doing, buddy? You're back in the United States.
Home, where I belong. Although immediately automatically miss the UK tremendously, terribly. The first day I was back, I had to,
Yes.
I don't know what UPS's deal is, but a package was sent to me and I needed to get it. But for some reason, instead of sending it directly to my home or to the office, they have two addresses they can choose from. They sent it to a UPS sorting facility and we're like, you got to pick it up there. I'm like, what? So I called and was like, hey, I am out of the country right now. I can't get to that. And they're like, well, that
sounds
tough.
like a you problem.
Yeah, they were like, sorry, nothing we can do. I was like, can I send someone to get it? They're like, unless that someone's you. No, sweetie. And I was like, okay, so what are my options? They're like, you have until October 1st to pick it up. And I was like, so I landed, went home, jumped in the shower, jumped in a car, drove to this sorting facility, got the package. But what I realized is in that process of driving, I was like, yo, I hate driving. I hate this. I hate everyone on the road. I'm so mad right now. This guy, why is he driving like that? That guy almost hit me. I was like, man, I had 2 weeks where all I did was walk places and it was so liberating. And I was like,
to be fair,
I hate this.
There are places in the United States you could live that are extremely walkable.
Yeah, but those places are like, not this place.
Sure.
So that doesn't help me now.
I'm just saying. It's not. I'm
I'm
just saying it's not.
Saying,
it's not an England versus
here.
US thing. Is all I'm saying.
It doesn't really help the current situation.
I know.
All that does is make me
That's
as
so
jealous
fair.
of those places as I was when I was in London. It doesn't help me now.
Fair. I know that people are going to ask, and so I will go ahead and take the fall and tell this story.
You should.
No, Jesse and I did not see each other while he was here. And if you recall, if you're a consistent Geekenders viewer / listener, you probably heard me giving this man a lot of guff about coming out at the farm, about seeing us, about meeting my child for the first time since she was an infant, etc. And he was gonna come out. This man was making plans to come out to the farm. And then we flooded. And I had to message and be like, hey, if you come down here, you might not be able to get out. So then it was, but you know what? It's supposed to look better beginning of next week, right before you leave.
Come on down. Let's hang out.
I'll go to London. And then the curse of having a child in the house hit, and I was borfin on Monday. So
That's fine. I made the best of a situation of Dodger not ever wanting to hang out with me and dodging me twice. Hence the name. I get it now. It makes sense. I spent those days where I had nothing to do, and it was, by the way, great. I went to museums. Full tourist. I touristed to the extreme. I saw Book of Mormon and Phantom of the Opera. I was like, I was living my life.
Amazing.
I went down to, I did all the tour stuff. I went down to Borough Market and got like one of those like fancy donuts and a coffee and walked around. I went along the Thames River. I did the whole thing. I went to the Tate Modern Art. I went to the History Museum. I went to the Science Museum. It was great. I did the whole thing.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, I had nothing to, like, I had 5 days there of absolutely nothing to do. Man, 4 and then 1 to go home. But like, it was great. It was a good time. I went and hung out with my dear pal Ben Starr and his amazing cast for their show Natural Six, and I got to see them do their D&D stuff. I love all of them. They're all sweethearts. I got sidewinded. I don't even know if that's the right word. Doug, or the voice of The Witcher, as I'm sure many people know, is on that show.
Right.
And I went to their offices, and he did like the nicest of niceties for me. And I can't even stress how much I was like, this man. We went to this coffee shop because they were like, we got to get ready to do this show. I was like, yeah. So we go to the coffee shop. And while we're there, a guy who, yes, Doug Cockle, while we're there, it was a Cockle Cox moment. While we're there, a guy, I guess, who works there was very into The Witcher. And Ben was like, that's The Witcher. And the guy was like, no, bro, no. And Doug started talking to him. He's like, well, actually, that guy right there pointing at me. And I was like, what is he about to say? He's like, that's the voice of one of the trolls that farts in that. And the guy was like, oh, you the cave troll, dude. I was like,
turned it around on you, dude.
Stop it. I was like, that's very sweet. It was very sweet. So yeah, and I got to see how they work, and it made me so jealous because their setup is like awesome. Yeah. Supremely awesome. They're doing stuff that reminded me of the Maker days, if that makes any sense, where they had like I think it was a TriCaster. They have like stuff set up. And I was like, I wish, but one day I'll figure it all out. One day I'll learn it. I've been having a conversation with so I came back and my camera setup was all weird. So I've been having a conversation online trying to figure out like, what am I doing? Why am I bad at this? I've been doing this for 15 years. Why am I bad at this still? The reasoning, of course, being, I haven't ever really tried. So.
That, you know, a lot of times that is what it all comes down to.
Yeah. God, I don't want to put people on blast, but I was having a conversation with someone about, I was like, guys, I have just every time I'm on stream, no matter even if I slept 80 hours, I just have like shadowy bags under my eyes. And the comment I got was, makeup, dude. I was like, I can't do that like, look, ladies.
You could. If
gents
you care.
Who wear makeup, whoever, anyone who wears makeup. It's not for me. Whenever I'm on set and they have to do that to me, the next day and a half, I'm like, my eyes, why? It stuffs my eyes.
But I do.
And I like scrub and I wipe and I wash. Can't do it. I
do think that there's a big difference between like full face of makeup for camera and I'm going to be in front of my own camera and I don't give a shit. And I'm just going to put a little bop under my eyes.
I wouldn't even know where to begin for my facial tone. I don't want to end up like with
again, you could figure it out if you care that much about the bags under the eyes.
This is a slippery slope because what happens here is first I start putting the makeup under the eyes because I become obsessed with it. Then it's like, oh boy, I'm gonna have to like get some transplants put in. Then I'm gonna have to get some like surgery. Then I'm gonna have like bat wings.
This truly was a slippery slope. I thought you were going to scale up in makeup, not in.
No. I'm talking about my transformation into man bat.
Oh,
Yeah.
That would
Speaking
be
of Man
cool.
Bat.
That would be cool to be there for, though.
Yeah.
like-
Let's see the process.
There's something different about you. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah. I must stress to you, speaking of Man Bat. So yeah, even though it was sponsored, even though it was totally sponsored, yesterday I went to go play Starfield for the first time ever. So going in, I was like, all right, I know the internet's vibe. I'm not too stressed on this. They wanted me to play the new Shattered Space, I believe is the name of the new expansion.
Okay.
But I have never played before, so I had to start at level 1. And everyone in chat was like, it's level 35, dude. I was like, all right, well, maybe I'm not doing that. But I started playing and goofing, and everything was fine. And I was just following along the missions, trying to like get as far as I could to maybe get to something I could show off from the new stuff. And while I was playing, I'm running around, and I am on a space station, and I shoot this guy, and I get a data pad, and the data pad's like, come to the secret location. The trial awaits you there. I was like, what?
Okay.
And I went off to like some system way far away, landed on a planet, and then began the search for the lair of the Mantis. And I was like, what the hell's the Mantis? Everyone there was like 20 levels higher than me, but I was acing them, and I felt really good about the whole situation. And I was like, oh my God, am I cool at this? And so I'm doing all this amazing stuff, and I'm murdering these guys, and I get to a part where it's like, you must undergo the trials of the Mantis. It's straight up Space Batman. It was Space Batman. It was the coolest thing I've ever done. I don't want to spoil the story, but at the end, your rewards are like a full-on Space Batman outfit and like a Space Batman ship. And I was like, what is this game? Obviously, it's not a perfect game, but that mission was cool as hell. I was like, what just happened here? And so the rest of the time I was playing, I was like, you gotta tell me where to go. Say it to me. Everywhere I went. And then on the news broadcast, it was like, the Mantis, rumored to be dead, has returned into the underworld to like defeat evil. I was like, yeah, this is cool as hell. I was so impressed with that. Mind you, I didn't do the things the game kept being like, hey, do you want to go explore worlds and farm and build a house? And I was like, no, dude, I'm a Mantis.
Thank you.
I don't want to do any of that stuff. That sounds boring as hell. I want to be the Mantis. And so, yeah, you get like this whole outfit. And I went around and like, it made me feel every time I met bad guys, I was like, I'm coming for you. You can't stop the Mantis. It was awesome. I loved that. I had so much fun with that. Obviously, that is a slice of the game. But that bit right there was dope. I was like, that was pretty cool. So
a bunch of people in
had fun
chat are
with
saying
that.
it's literally their favorite quest in the game. So that tracks. Yeah.
And it was one of those things that was totally random. I was like, this is really fun. And it explained stuff to me in that even though I was level 7 at the time, I was killing guys who were level 20, level 30. And I was like, well, maybe I don't need to be 35 to go do the new stuff. Maybe those are just level 35 guys. Because when I went to the zone, or not zone, but like the system where the new stuff was, it was pinging me like, hey, come help me, please. I need your help. And I was like, okay. So
Maybe.
I'm almost positive that, at least from my experience in the game, that there's some really great moments. But at least I feel like for the most part, all the extra stuff, like, I think I avoided the things that were probably the things that were slowing people down. You know, it has the same vibe to me, at least from what I've experienced, as Dragon Age Inquisition, where if you played it like a normal game, you'd be stuck in the hinterlands for days, bored out of your mind. And the whole point was to get out of there and come back every once in a while. But
Like
I didn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I sat there in the hinterlands and literally played like countless hours of the hinterlands thinking, yeah, cool. And it slowly got worse and worse and more boring and more boring. And then it goes like that. And then it really focuses the story as time goes on. But I was like, I hate the hinterlands. And I wonder if that's a lot of what's going on here. Because the game, everywhere I went, someone was like, hey, man, can you help me out? And I'm like, no.
I'd rather not.
Yeah. I made my backstory basically Han Solo.
Tracks.
Yeah, I don't remember what we named him. His name was like Dirk Rockgroin or something like that was the character's name. And we went around, and the only people I talked to were people that looked like badasses. There was one guy in a bar who was like standing there like this, and I was like, that guy's cool. I went over and talked to him. Everyone else, they're like, help me, sir. My children. I'm like, nope, don't care. And I was like, all right, this is fun. So lessons learned, I suppose. Yeah.
I played a game this week called Atlyss.
Atlyss?
Yeah, Atlyss, I think.
Okay.
And speaking of games where like you could market it off of what is really just a small bit of what the game actually is. This game, Sam was like, I bought you this game off of itch. It's not done yet. It's like in development still. It's going on to Steam as like early access, in a couple of months here. So it's still pretty early days for it. But it's like furry Hades. And I was like, okay.
The first image I see is of like the furriest of furries.
Yes.
Like, okay.
So yeah, and we always do warning lists when I'm going to stream a game. And one of my mods had gone to make a warning list before I went totally blind into this game, right? And the warning list had general mature content, quote unquote. And I was like, what does that mean? And then I went into the character creator and I figured out what that means. Because you truly can just make a big booty, big booba, hot fox lady if you want. If that's what you want to play in the game. You can have a gigantic dumpy. You can decide whether or not your boobies jiggle. It's the whole thing, right? And the game itself is so fun. It's a dungeon crawler. It's third person. There are a couple of different classes in the game right now, but it's very much you like go talk to characters, they give you quests, you go into the dungeon, you kill a million slimes, you come back. There are like catacombs, like actual dungeons that you like run around in and like solve puzzles and things. It's definitely the beginning of like a super cool, really fun game. I think the graphics are very like PlayStation, like old PlayStation,
Sure.
which I kind of love. There's something very, very charming about it. The character that I made is technically an imp, but really, with how we randomized it, it wound up looking like an absolutely psychotic Zora from Zelda. And I love it. And it's great. I just look like a tiny, weird shark. and you don't know why they're there. But yeah, the game is really fun. I guess on their Patreon, they were giving out keys that let you do multiplayer. But they don't have keys for that anymore. So that's something that will be available to people once they go into actual early access, I believe. Sorry if that's incorrect information. But yeah, really fun game. And if you also if you also happen to want to make a big booba mouse girl, you can. So,
I have two games I don't want to spend too much time talking about because one is massively spoilery and the other is like I don't even know how to describe it to people. So while I was away this past weekend, I was looking for games again. We talked about how I played Wedding Witch before. And so I was on that like, well, what games can I play on a laptop? I want to stream this from the beginning again because it's so cool. But the game Beyond Galaxyland is an old school RPG game that is so good. It is basically a like Titan AE-esque adventure through the stars, but like has the vibe of a classic Squaresoft RPG. It is so cool, and to describe more to you would be to immediately spoil things. It is awesome, and I will simply say, if you like a good old RPG, it feels, we've talked about before in the past, like what retro is versus what like an actual old game is. It has the retro style. It makes you like feel like you're 13 again. It's so cool. Love it. Big fan. I want to play from the beginning because there's so much good things to say about that. Then,
yes,
on a totally different wavelength, I was recommended a game to play while it was a laptop game. And here's the problem. I don't remember it, and I don't have the name, and I don't have the laptop, but I can describe it to you completely because there's no spoilers here.
Okay.
Imagine Star Fox, and this is what I was sold on. Star Fox, but for adults. And I was like, yo, adult Star Fox? What's that mean? Is it like violent stuff? Cool. No, y'all. No. It's Star Fox, except instead of being a fox, you're like a slime man kind of thing. Okay. And then all the crew members are just like sexy girls. And when you go through missions, if you raise their rank enough, they're like, you want a bone? And I'm like, what is happening right now? First off, yes, I did want a bone. Second off, it plays really well. Like, it plays like Star Fox. It has the same mechanic. You can do the power-up charge and shoot. You can do the... Like, it is... I was like, what is happening right now? It was actually very fun.
It's Star Fox, but also a dating sim? Or...
I don't know if it's I mean, like, dating sim is a relative term. But, so, like... You know when in Star Fox, when somebody's like, help me, Fox, and he's like, goes and you have to shoot and save him? Same premise, but when you shoot and save these people, they get like a +2 or a +4, and that improves their bar and their relationship with you grows. And as they do, it's like, yo, you want to blow off some steam? And I'm like, I do want to blow off some steam.
Yes.
But it visually looks like Star Fox. It has, you know how in Star Fox it feels like just a ripoff of Star Fox. It has the first level had a gorilla, a pig man as an enemy, and the pig man's like, you can't beat me, I'm gonna destroy your entire world. And as you do it, as you fight him, you blow up his ship. And the next level is this jungle planet, and he's back, but it's like half his face is all like scarred up, and he's got a robot mask. He's like, I'm gonna get my revenge. I was like, there is voice acting. I was like, this is like professionally done, and it's freaking me out that this exists, because I'm like, someone put time into this, and this is more effort for like dirty erotica than I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like, I appreciate this.
Was it crowdfunded? Because
again, I have no clue. I got a link.
A lot of those like sexy games go way over the amount that they ask for, and then they're able to add, full voice acting and things.
That is very true. What's interesting to me is like Kickstartering things or whatever that stuff that people use now, the different versions of Kickstarter. It's always interesting to see what game is focused and gets done and made versus what games are clearly like Star Citizen, where they're just like, let's keep adding and making money, and we don't even have to release anything. That is an indictment of you, Star Citizen. I'm still waiting for... I bought a ship 10 years ago from your Kickstarter, and I see nothing. My ship don't even exist. So I'm just saying, like, I'm very, very curious how that got made. I feel like legally... Probably it's like the ship looks like an R-Wing. Like it is basically Star Fox.
Right.
But I love Star Fox. And so they were right. Mechanically, it plays like Star Fox. It feels like Star Fox. I enjoyed every minute of it, but it was one of those things where no one told me what I was playing. They're like, oh, it's just adult. And I was like, cool. And yeah, they were swearing and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's fun. Like it seems more modern, but no, afterwards, just they're like, and it's animated, but like not 3D, but like cartoon. I was like, what am I doing? It's a weird vibe, just be alone in your hotel room at like 10 p.m. playing on a control, like, yeah, that's right. Pew, pew, pew. It was so...
I hope I get a smooch after this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saved him from they attached to the ship, and I saved her. I hope she's into me. Yeah. But it's got something for everyone. Admittedly, all the different girls you got different species, you got different, I was like, all right, great, good for y'all. I wish I could tell you what it's called. Look it up, Google it. You'll figure it out.
A couple people said Subverse. Is that it?
No, that's a totally different game. That's a totally different game.
Okay.
That's that is one of those games I think I was talking about where they probably got too much money and didn't know what to do with the money they got, kind of
Not
vibe.
safe for work flight sim on Steam comes back with Starbreed.
I don't. You just have to Google this yourself, y'all. I don't remember, and the game is on my laptop, which is in a backpack. I only ever use my laptop when I travel. That laptop is old. By streamer standards, that laptop is ancient. The laptop, I got it in 2017, so it is like not running on anything new. That's for sure. So I honestly don't remember. I'm gonna let you know. I played it one night and was like, well, that was cute. And that I was like, all right. And then I went and saw musicals.
You know what? That sounds like a lovely couple of days, honestly.
It was lovely. Yeah.
The only other thing that I played that isn't like my norm really was another itch game that started off as part of a game jam, I believe. And it was called Shroom and Gloom. And it's a deck builder. But you're going deeper and deeper and deeper underground. Like there's a thing that is like calling to you from deep underground. And it operates slightly differently from like Slay the Spire. It's first person, first of all, but
Sure.
you're essentially like going through these really tight little caverns. The art style is a little like Clay, Darkest Dungeon, like with those really thick, like sort of comic lines and stuff. The cards are very funny. The abilities are funny. I think the thing that really sets it apart is that every space you go into, you first have a fight against some sort of like fungus creature. They get more and more like body horror, like creepy gross as you get deeper and deeper down. But you have your fight, and then you have a whole separate deck of cards that are your camp cards. So you go into the second phase of like that section you've walked into after you've defeated everybody. And you have a camping phase that has its own amount of energy that you can use. You will have either one or two altar spots where you can set up things if you have the cards for them. One of the things, for example, is like a training dummy so that you can upgrade cards. One of them is a frog shrine, and that's what helps you like forget cards. And so it's not like you have fight, and then maybe a camp. Fight, and then maybe a camp. It's you have the opportunity to do a camping, quote unquote, type thing after every single fight. And somehow it still manages to be like pretty challenging, honestly. There's, from what I can tell, 15 floors. I got to the 14th floor twice.
Damn.
So I still haven't beaten it because the monster on floor 14 is so hard. But I'm pretty determined to get to floor 15 and see what that's all about.
According to the itch page, it says it's a prototype and it's a, like you were saying, it's a kind of work in progress thing, but like it visually looks really cool.
It's so, again, the cards are really funny. Visually, it's fantastic. If they wanted to expand it into a bigger thing, I would love that because I played it over and over and over again. Yeah, it's got a really good vibe to it. And there's like little subtle things. You, every time you go into a new area, you lift up a map. And so you've got like your little hand holding a map. And the deeper you go in, the skin on your hand starts to look like more and more decayed and weird. You know, like
we're going like Cthulhu-y. Yeah.
There's some sort of a thing like, I don't know. Maybe trying to use you or I don't know. I haven't gotten to floor 15. I don't know. But I definitely recommend it. I think it was $2 on itch.
Cool.
Yeah. I really, really like it. I hope they turn it into a bigger thing because, yeah, it's great.
That's fun. It looks great. I'm all for card. I don't want to say card battlers, but like card roguelike games that are very focused. Like a lot of the time you play a game and it kind of seems like it's all over the place. And this one seems very focused. Like you're going down, you got to survive. That's it. And it gets weird.
Oh, it's
So
pay
that's
what you
neat.
want, someone said. I think they suggest $2. It's pay what you want. So that's nice.
Sure, but also like you could pay them $2. It's fine. It's just you're gonna play the game. It's $2.
Yeah.
So that's neat. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I jumped on anything else, but really, I haven't. I sadly have so many games on my desktop and about 8 billion games that are in the realm of, boy, I would love to play this scary game. Like, oh man, Floor 9 is a game I want to check out. Corpse Ocean is a game I want to check out. Home Safety Hotline, which we played on Scary Game Squad, has like a new holiday theme thing coming, which seems like fun. What was that? Zoojosis, whatever the hell that game is. That's the creepy monsters at the zoo. I wanted to check that game out. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff that is like spooky for October that I want to check out. But then, literally in the middle of all of that, we have I think, man, sometime next week, I think Lucky Towers comes out. Or maybe it's already out. I don't know. Metaphor comes out. Like Neva comes out.
A lot of people are really looking forward to Metaphor.
I am. Oh my God. Metaphor slaps. It is so good. I cannot stress to you how much it's literally Persona, but fantasy. What now?
Pitch it to me.
Sure. First off, it's Persona, but instead of high school kids, it's fantasy. You play as a young man. So it's like you actually have a protagonist who is a talking character who isn't like silent.
Okay.
And you have a little fairy that hangs out with you, and it's in a fantasy world. And in this fantasy world, the king has died. And by died, I mean just straight up murdered. And the prince is sick with something. And so the time mechanic, at least as far as I can tell, the time mechanic is the prince is slowly
Save
dying.
the prince.
Right.
Okay.
Meanwhile, there's a like a weird, potentially meta narrative where like it keeps showing like the fantasy characters are like, there's a world where life is different. And like that kind of vibe. And they show like a book and it literally looks like Tokyo. And you're like, what is happening here? But at the same time, there's a character who talks directly to you, the player, like, hello, welcome, I see the veil. And it's like, this is all in the first 5 minutes, by the way. Like, this is the setup to the game. This isn't even like this is the setup. And so I don't know what any of this means. And the world that exists, it's under siege by these monsters. I don't want to spoil the monsters for you. It's really cool.
Okay.
But at the same time, there's also a mechanic where they are trying to determine who the new king will be, and you are like having to compete for that. And I assume the idea is going to be that you are competing so the prince can take the throne.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's accurate. I have no clue. So there's a whole other thing going on there. The combat is so much fun. The UI is hyper Persona. It's very cool. It has all this cool stuff going on in it, and it just everything about it is so much fun to play. I cannot stress it. It is, and it does a lot of the cool stuff that, you know, have been in previous games. Like if you're leveled high enough, if you've seen the enemy on the world screen and you attack him, usually if you attack them, they'll go, ow, and they'll be a little hurt in combat.
Okay.
But if you get high enough level and you attack them, they just die and give you everything and you can keep moving. Like that's my jam. That's where I'm at. Where I'm a serial over leveler. So if I run around, I can just bash guys without ever having to fight them. That's a sweet spot for me. So I was feeling it. It's the characters are very good. The only ones that I got, and I think they're probably in the demo. I'm pretty sure the demo is what I've played. But you know, like there's the races of this world are like horned goat people and elves and like cat people and like the dog people, for example, in one of the cinematics are shown as like living on the street and like begging for scraps and things like that. So there's like a hierarchy in their caste systems. And one of the interesting things about it is that your character has none of those. You're just like a person, like a human, but you're not, because there are no humans in this world. Although there are, but that's a whole different thing. But you're not one of them. You're an Elda. You're a different type of person, and everyone hates you. Your people are like spit on. People do not like you, and you have a book, and this book was given to you by the prince, and this book, for some damn reason, has images that look like our world in it, and it's very interesting, and I don't know what the hell this game's gonna be. It seems super trippy. Some sort of metaphor, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, and it's very well done. So I cannot wait. Like, this is gonna be a huge game. This is gonna be big.
How long is the demo? Because there's a demo for this game, right?
Yeah. How long's the demo? That's a great question. I haven't played the demo, but I imagine it's 3-4 hours long. If it's what I played. It's for the full name is Metaphor Refantasio. 5 to 8 hours. That sounds right.
Dang.
The game itself is gonna be, they said, 80 hours to beat, 100 hours if you do everything else. Like, it's gonna be a big game. It's gonna be huge.
That's nice though. That's not like, I don't know, for an RPG. I'm so used to now, like, there being so much extra stuff to do that it basically doubles the game. 80 hours to beat it and 100 hours to do everything else sounds kind of reasonable for an RPG.
Like, I think a lot of it is, so you meet characters and you form bonds with them. I forgot the core mechanic. So as you play, you create bonds with characters. And this isn't like a romantic bond, you're just buds, right?
Sure.
But the bonds you create unlock these abilities that you have, and you summon forth archetypes. And archetypes are sort of like, in this world, for example, like your main character will rip out his heart and do, like, the Persona thing where instead of, like, the different Persona thing, he'll rip out his heart, which is like this cool metal heart, and he'll be like, yeah, and then he'll turn to this giant badass robotic looking thing. And each one of the archetypes, there's several you can choose from, and you can unlock, and you can get better versions as time goes on. And it's everything, like there's the one you start with is sort of wind based. There's one later on that's like a berserker that looks really cool. There's all sorts of different things you can pick. But yeah, it's a Persona summoning mechanic, but it's in this world.
Dude.
And it's this whole other thing, but you form bonds, those bonds unlock stuff. But at the same time, by forming bonds, it helps you in your goal of achieving whatever the hell the point of the race to become king is. And so you have this multi-tiered system where I think the whole point is if you want to win, you need to do most of the side stuff to begin with. So that's probably why it isn't like another 100 hours tacked on, because you got to do a lot of stuff if you intend to win. But I don't know if there's a fail state to that. There's also a time mechanic that I don't know what that leads to. A lot of questions, no answers. Very excited for this one.
I've been waiting for a game to truly show us the power of platonic friendship. So,
yeah, no smooching. Even though in the demo right away you meet like an elf mommy who I just want to destroy me, but she's like, "This is a tough town, kid, and I don't like you." And I'm like, "Yeah." So, I'm very excited. It's gonna be a good one. It's funny because we'll just say that now. Coming out next week. Next week. There you go, kids.
Dang. Okay, so yeah, lots of stuff to play, it sounds like.
Yep. I'm excited for, like, then Square is finally releasing at the end of October, beginning of November. Dragon Quest 3 comes out, I think. I think that's November. But I mean, it existed before, but it's like the redo. And then Romancing Saga 2. Like, there's just, it's a lot happening right now, and I'm very excited for all of it.
I do feel like when spooky season comes around, because you do like Scary Game Squad and stuff, you're much more like, tuned in on what is going to be coming out than I am, you know?
Dragon Age. I mean, that's another one that I'm like, oh boy. So I expect more streams than usual because I'm just overwhelmed and I'm like, I gotta play stuff. I gotta get stuff done. People get asking me like, you could play this. I'm like, I'm gonna try, y'all. There's so much coming out. It's a lot. So
how often would you say that you finish games nowadays?
Unless it's a game that I am absolutely 100% in love with, not often. And that's just, people are gonna have to live with that. Because I'm like, look, I could push through this, but it's all right. Like, it's fun. But, and there's some things like we were playing that, Together in Between. Like, I would love to finish that, but do I need to finish it? Nah. But like, I'd love to for the sake of closure, but like, I don't need to finish it. A great example is, I played a bunch of Outlaws, Star Wars Outlaws. And I like just got so frustrated with some of the mechanics. I loved the story. I thought the story was really good. I loved some of the really cool things you could do, like mess with the Imperials and some of the great. The faction system and the stealthing stuff, which we talked about before, I hate. And I didn't want to do that anymore. And I was like, well, maybe I'll come back to it. Will I? Probably not. But then a game like Astrobot, I literally returned home from the UK and, you know, at first kind of like, I'm half awake and whatever. I platinumed that trophy on play. I like sat down and was like, let's go. All of it. Love that game. So much fun. And yeah, I don't know. I have to really be into it. Like, really be into it.
Yeah,
so,
I get that. I think it's the same for me. I tend to choose games that are like around 10 hours long now because I know I'll be able to finish that, you know?
Right.
But yeah, it's one of the reasons I avoid RPGs generally. It's because I most of the time I won't get invested enough to want to finish it anyway. Mm-hmm. Which is weird because when I was a kid, that's all I ever wanted to play was RPGs. I wanted to just like go on a grand adventure for hours of my life, you know, but like it's really hard for me to, because a lot of times, especially JRPGs, they like introduce so many characters and the story goes on for so long. And I just find myself sort of falling out of love with it before I've, you know, resolved anything, which I think is unfortunate, but maybe that's just part of getting older. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, so like, I just want to go look up really quickly because my trinity of RPGs when I was a kid, the ones that speak to me, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy VI. That was back to back, year after year in the mid 90s. Those three games came out one after the other. And those games I played all the time, hyper religiously. Like, I love them. They're some of my favorite games ever made. Those games, to do a run through of Final Fantasy VI, to do almost completion, I'm going to say full completion sub 40 hours. I know to beat the game, just going through it and getting all the cast members, 26 hours. Secret of Mana, I think, is like to do everything is like 30 hours. So that's like where my mindset is. Like, that to me, I'm like, that's an RPG. That's a lot. Going into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, for example, to do everything, I was pushing 100 hours.
I still haven't touched that game because I know there's just so much that I have to do.
Baldur's Gate, one playthrough, my Jesse the Good playthrough was 117 hours. I loved every minute of it, and it's one of the few games where I completed everything and then replayed it multiple times, and maybe even play it tomorrow, Dodger. Wink, 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 wink. And I still love it. It's still a fantastic game, but I think, I don't know. Again, this is a privileged place of speaking, but I always am upset when a game is too big and too long. Even if it's warranted and justified and is like, what a great experience. It's just sometimes I need a little short boy. And I understand that for many people, people are like, I get one game a year, dude, or I get 2 games over the summer, and I want them to be big and long so I can get in them and play and get my money's worth. I get it. As this, what we do, it's impossible to do stuff like that. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rough. Unless you're a Sam or something and you're like, yeah, I'll just, I'll do 20 hours a night. But something crazy.
Sam does, and unless it's like Nier, in which he did a lot of stuff where he was like in it. Watching Sam, most of it is like hyper focus.
Yes.
Like he's going to do the story and move on. That's an impossibility for me. And the only way I did it yesterday with Starfield was to like, I want to get to the part I need to see for this brand thing, rather than, so I was like skipping quests. Normal Jesse would be like, you want me to go save your child? Okay.
Of
just
course,
like,
I would love to.
What's that? Okay. And I absolutely can't help myself. I want to do the things in order so I don't miss something. But no, I was like, don't know you, don't care, moving on. And I was like blowing through story. The only thing I did was, the only thing side quest I did was like, become the mantis. And I was like, guys, I gotta go become the mantis. That was it. Everything else was ignoring. I had a whole list of quests to go to, and I was like, don't care, don't know, not gonna do that. And I feel like that might be the only way to get stuff done. But on the flip side, it's not how I like to play games. Right. I just don't like that.
Yeah.
And because I feel like I'm missing stuff. And a great example is Final Fantasy 16, which, by the way, still cursed. For everyone asking, Jesse, where's the end of Final Fantasy 16? Every time I turn my PlayStation, a thing pops up in the corner and says, can't reconcile save file, please, something. Literally, we had a lightning storm and it hit my PlayStation. I don't know what happened. And now my PlayStation, it lost all its saves. And it keeps trying to back it up from the cloud, but it's like, can't do that, bro. So what a mess. But I'm constantly reminded of my failure to complete that game because literally over here, it tells me all the time. But like with that one, if you skip the side quests, you missed amazing story moments. Like really good things that fleshed out the world even better. And it was like, if you didn't do those, what the hell why would you even play this? You're missing the whole point.
Right.
And so like that breaks my heart too, where I was like, man, I like watch people blow through that and not doing the side quests. I'm like, but that's an important thing. That's actually very important.
For sure. I mean, I think the first game that made me think about that sort of a thing, and this was when I was really young, but one of the reasons that I love Chrono Trigger so much is because that was a game where I was really rewarded, and not in a way that took up like a ton of extra time, but I was rewarded for getting invested in trying to like sort everything out, pursue side stuff. And yeah, like you were saying, it didn't mean that the game was 1,000,000 hours long, but it did mean that I had more context for things and I knew more about characters and I like that sort of reward. So when a game is insanely long and they also say, by the way, if you don't do all of the side stuff, you won't really know everything about the story, then it's like, God. So then, to me, then all of it's necessary. None of it's side stuff then, really, And like, thank God I loved Banishers as much as I did, because if I didn't, like, that was definitely one of those games where like all of the side stories, all of the side quests were put together with so much love. They were all like so like woven in with everything else that was going on that I was like, I'm so glad I did all of these. Yeah. But also that means that they're not side quests to me, Like you could say, of course they're side quests because you don't need to do them in order to finish the game. But if I'm invested, then I'm going to want to do them.
Absolutely. So. It's frustrating. Like Red Dead Redemption 2, there's a lot of side stuff. But in my estimation, the side stuff is like what makes it worth playing. Like the main story's fine, but it's the side stuff of like just exploring the West and getting caught up in things that makes it the adventure it is. And to not do those, it's like, why even play a game this big? Why do this? But again, that comes down to there's just so much. Here's another great example of the differences. Mass Effect 2 into Mass Effect 3. I saw people chatting about Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2, in one playthrough, I got 92% of the achievements. And it was like just going through, having a good time, living my life. I didn't have to like do a bunch. Mass Effect 3 is like, hey, here's a bunch of insane stuff. And then the little bit I played of Mass Effect Andromeda, it was like, hey, here's a bunch of stuff to do. And it's like, we had a sweet spot. And I don't know how the hell, like, the side stuff in Mass Effect 2 was fun and engaging. And then Mass Effect 3 is like, there's a lot of side stuff. And then Andromeda is like, there's side stuff, but it's not fun.
It's get 15 bear asses side stuff.
It was, but even worse, it's like send your crew to go do things on an online server, like side missions, but also you can make it go faster by getting better crew if you pay to unlock soldiers to fight for you. Like that kind of Andromeda had a scheme going on behind. Like that is not cool. The worst part is that when I played it, it was so long after the fact where I guess Andromeda tanks that they straight up, like, I couldn't do half of it because the character, it was like, sorry, that server doesn't exist. I'm like, what do you mean?
I guess, at the end of the day, I guess that it really is a quantity versus quality conversation. Just like so many things wind up being. It's like, yeah, it's great to be able to say, there's so much to do in our game. It's really going to be worth the price point. You can really just live in this world and do all of this stuff. But at a certain point, there's a line that you cross where you can't have put love and care into every single quest. It's just impossible, right?
Yeah.
There are going to be a few where somebody was like, I have an idea for a quest. I think it's going to be really cool. And then there's going to be basically video game filler, like open world filler.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why everyone said Witcher 3 was brilliant, is because they found a way to make what should have been filler compelling and fun. Even like random quests, you'd find notes that would lead you to a thing. I feel like people tried to emulate that, but I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of the time it just doesn't work unless you really sit there and take the time to put stuff into it. Like everything about this, we're going to make a lot of it interesting. When, Dragon Age, going back to that, for example, everyone was talking about how Veilguard, they're like, it's slimmed down, it's more focused. It is less of we're going to have you go. That sounds great to me. I'm so happy. People are like, it's not Dragon Age then. I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm all right. If you want to railroad me through a story, if it's just a hallway simulator, I don't give a damn. Like, if I can get through the RPG story, so be it. I realize that is not the take many people are excited for, and they want to have like a big, expansive. Honestly, at this point, I don't know that I trust EA to give me like an open world game and it not be a complete mess. So I'm fine with like, it's just a story and you fight guys. Like I'd be fine with that.
Right.
It would not upset me at all. But we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. I want it to be good. I'm excited for it. I hope it's good, but I don't want a lot of side quest stuff from EA or Ubisoft. It's always the like lowest hanging fruit version of side content. And I'm like, I can't do this. Guys, I can't do this anymore. Yeah.
I don't know how we got here, but that's okay.
Yeah. You know what? Who cares? Hey,
cares?
have you, speaking of spicy, I'm going to get so much flack for this and I just don't care.
Okay.
While I was away, sometimes you're tired, you just want to put on TV, but there's just nothing to watch. So I watched from start to finish, or not finish, but at least the current season of Rings of Power.
Okay.
And everyone was like, that show sucks, dude. That show sucks. It is not great. Admittedly, it's not great. But I enjoyed watching it for what it was.
And what is
more
it?
importantly, I don't know, like Lord of the Rings fan fiction
Okay.
kind of vibe. And honestly, once I turned that off, I was like, boop. And I just enjoyed it because I was getting to see some like, oh, that's cute. That's fun. Honestly, I kind of like Sauron. I think as a character, at least in season 1, it's kind of all over the place. But season 2, like, watching just one character mess with all the characters that are in this world and him being, like, cooler than everyone else, I was like, all right. And Celebrimbor as a character, the actor was really good. And I was like, all right, yeah. I don't know. I kind of dug some of it. Again, I'm not going to say I would recommend the show to anyone, but if you were bored like me, I had fun with it. It's not like you're watching Lord of the Rings again. It's not the case at all. It is not like going to change your life. But if you're just like, oh, this is fan fiction-y, I kind of dig it. I was like, yeah, I'll watch season 3. I'm fine with this. It isn't, it's not. I don't know if it's one of those things you seek out. Like, the great example is, at the same time I was watching that, I started watching The Penguin on HBO.
I heard that's great.
That show is amazing. It really is more of like I don't want to say it feels the same as the Joker, because the new Joker movie sucks, but it has the same vibe where it's like, it's Batman, but there's no Batman. It feels more like a mob show. Like, but it just exists in Gotham. And Batman exists and is around, but who knows what Batman's up to when this is going down. Plus, it's like low-level criminal stuff. But, oh my God, it is so well done. Every episode is like the most tension-filled Sopranos thing that ever existed. Watching the Penguin just be amazing on screen, like every actor is killing it. It is so well done. Compared to Rings of Power, which is like, again, it's fun. It's fan fiction-y.
Lord of the Rings fan fiction. Yeah,
it's like a fun romp. It's like watching, it has the same qualities of like watching a high-quality HBO drama and then turning on the CW and watching like any CW show. They're fun. They're not great, but they're fun. And I enjoyed watching Rings of Power because, like, again, I didn't go in expecting to be like, wow, this is going to be my new Lord of the Rings replacement. It's been 20 years and, it is, boy, this is, I think Rings of Power is better than some of the Hobbit movies.
Damn.
Like, that's where I'm at. Like, it's not Lord of the Rings, but it's definitely better than some of those Hobbit movies, for sure. And
man, I actually really enjoy the Hobbit movies. I don't know why.
The first one I actually really liked. I thought the first one was great. The next two, not a fan of. Did not like them. Just, I don't know what it was, but like, wasn't terrific for me. Like, did not enjoy those last two. But the first one, I thought was.
It shouldn't have been 3 movies.
Yeah, you're totally right. But the first one I enjoyed tremendously. I thought it was like, yeah, all right, this is fun. I know a lot of people were pissed because it was just like 2.5 hours of burps. But, I was like, yeah, I like dwarves. I like this whole vibe. I like the music. I like the cast. I like all this. But yeah, it sort of fell off. And this has the vibe of like somewhere in between the first and the last 2 movies where it's like, it's fun. There's a lot of interesting stuff. But also a lot of it is like wink and nod. So a great example is they literally do a scene where it's like, Galadriel, no, remember how this is the vibe. It's like, remember how in Lord of the Rings, Galadriel's like, you can't give me that ring because if I get the ring, I'll become like a super powerful queen and rule with fear, but like light, right? They like do a callback to that at the end of season 1 where it's like, oh, Galadriel, if you join with Sauron, oh boy, that's good. And then it's like, remember that scene from the movie? Remember that? Like, it's like that vibe.
Right.
Or like, it's like that stuff. But it's fun And there's like a moment in this season where they're like, remember that sword remember the sword at the end of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, where Aragorn had it and he like lifted it and like held it a certain way? We're gonna do the exact same, like shing. I was like, okay, it's like that kind of thing. But it's like fun. And again, as like the first season was kind of whatever, but the second season is literally just every episode Sauron is like messing with people, and it's fun to watch him be. You know what it's like? The Sauron and Celebrimbor stuff, having played Shadows of Mordor and stuff, those kind of things. First off, no sexy Shelob in this. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Boo.
But I know. But I mean, if you're gonna do sexy I just want to point out, they made sexy Shelob and people were like, that's weird, but no one was complaining. I'm just saying, and that's goofy as hell, and no one complained. Actually, they probably did, but not in my corners of the internet. People were like, yeah, sexy spider. But it's watching the two actors. It was very good to watch them work, and I was like, I like these scenes. I would lie if I said I didn't like those scenes. And it was like watching a I don't know if like abusive couple is, but like very toxic, where like Sauron, every time Celebrimbor would do something and realize he was wrong for it, Sauron would be like, why'd you do that, bro? And it's clear that Sauron made him do it. And he's like, you did this to yourself. The reason why you're feeling pain right now is because you did this. I was trying to help you. It's like fascinating to watch. And I was like, that's an interesting take on this. And I kind of love this. And I'm here for this. But I thought that was pretty interesting. And yeah, at the same time, there's a lot of stuff where I was like, why is this character still around? What is the point of this plot line? Why are we doing this? This is stupid. But then it'd go back and it'd be like, I'm evil and I'm trying to do this and,
you're like,
this and this. And it's like, all right, this is kind of sweet. So yeah, Sauron was a gaslight girl boss. It's pretty much what was going on. It was great. I thought it was amazing. Watching them forge the rings, I was like, oh, this is fun. But again, it falls in like pure fan fiction lines. Like it is, it's like, okay, all right. Like the dwarf stuff, some of the dwarf stuff is awesome. Some of the dwarf stuff, you're like, what are we doing? What is this? The human stuff across the board, I just don't care about. The human stuff, anytime a human's on screen, I'm like, yo, I don't know what this is or why I should care. Like, y'all suck. This is so boring. And then it'll be like, now back to Sauron. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. So that, I don't know. I don't know if it's because I watched all of it over the course of like, I don't know, 5 days, but like, I don't know. I was into it. I was having fun. With that said, like I was saying before, Penguin is like here comparatively. It is so much better over like quality and everything. It's just incredible. Like it's, you can tell what a focused like writing team they have compared to Rings of Power, but I don't know. That's interesting.
Since we're on the topic, would you like a Reading the Hobbit to my 6-year-old update?
I would love a Reading the Hobbit to my 6-year-old update.
So we've reached page 50 as of last night. It's slow going, but we've reached the point where they stumble onto trolls that try to eat them. Spoilers for The Hobbit. And I gotta tell you,
in that book?
Huh?
There are trolls in that book?
There are trolls in that book, yeah. Basically, they've been traveling for days. It's rainy. They can't get a fire started. All of their food's floated away. And they see a light off in the distance. And they argue for a while about whether or not they should check it out. And then they're like, we should check it out just in case it's like nice people with food, right?
Right.
And it's trolls. Anyways. I thought that maybe this whole troll sequence would be a little spookerino for my child. But no, she got really laser focused on the fact that Gandalf got to ride on a big, beautiful white horse and everyone else rode on ponies, and Bilbo had to ride on a very small pony.
Yep.
An even smaller horse than everyone else. And she was like, they should have given Bilbo the same pony as everyone else. And I was like, well, he needs to be able to get on and get off of it safely, And she was like, but but won't it be harder for him to keep up with everybody? I was like, yeah, probably. Probably did have trouble keeping up with everybody. And then Gandalf, of course, like right as shit starts going down, he just vanishes. And she was very affronted about the fact that Gandalf just left them high and dry. And I didn't want to spoil anything, but I really wanted to be like, you should get used to that. You should get used to this man just being like, anyway, I'll see you guys around.
Admittedly, even though I have a lot of issues with The Hobbit, I'm glad they were like, we're going to show Gandalf doing things rather than him just leaving. Because it's very frustrating in the book. I understand from a child's perspective of like, what the hell is he up to? Yeah. I'm glad they at least showed him doing things in the movie. Because I was like, that would have been annoying.
Yeah.
Also, so Clark isn't like a huge Myrtle stan? Like, they go to save Myrtle from the trolls. That's the whole... Myrtle's great.
Myrtle?
Isn't Myrtle the name of the pony? Bilbo's very small pony?
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember if Myrtle's the name of the pony.
I think it's Myrtle. I could be wrong.
I don't recall them saying any names for the horses so far.
Was that an inclusion that they added in the movie and I'm just gaslighting myself into making? I have
no idea. I'm not quite sure.
No.
But currently we haven't resolved the troll situation yet.
Gotcha.
Bilbo was told because, you know, he's been sort of he's pretending that he's a burglar. And so we got the lore that that hobbits can travel through the forest without being heard, even by other animals. They're so silent. So they're actually perfect burglars. And he was like, oh my God, they're trolls. And the Took side of him took over and was like, I should steal something so that when I go back to the dwarves, they'll be like, yo, this guy's got it going on. And he tried to steal something and immediately fucked it up and they found him. And then the dwarves showed up because they were like, hey, if something goes wrong, you got to make a bunch of owl noises. And Bilbo was too embarrassed to admit that he had no idea how to make an owl noise. So the trolls captured him and discussed whether or not to let him go or to eat him. But the troll that had him was too full and knew that he wouldn't be able to eat him anyway. So was like, we should just let him go because I'm full, dude. And meanwhile, Bilbo is desperately trying to figure out how to make owl noises. And then the dwarves show up. And the book says that trolls hate dwarves if they're uncooked, which I thought was a very funny sentence. And that's where we're at so far.
So is Clark feeling the like Tolkien vibe? Like, did that land? Dwarves uncooked?
She's losing the thread occasionally. She'll need a reminder of like, where are they going? What are they doing? And I'm like, honey, they're going to the mountain. They have to go to the
That's
dwarven
literally
castle
all they're
in the
doing,
mountain
honey.
to defeat Smaug, who kicked them out of their mountain and now hoards all of their gold. And she's like, oh. So, but occasionally she forgets and needs a reminder.
There's only one thing they're doing. They're just trying to get to a mountain.
Yeah. They're going to get to the mountain. But to be fair, Tolkien books, it's about the getting there, right?
Right.
So even for her, in comparison to books that we've read before this, the journey to get there is taking quite a while. She's like, what are we doing? What's happening? I'm like, they're traveling. They're on an adventure, honey. On their little horses.
I wonder what the vibe with Smaug will be.
Me too.
That'll be interesting.
I'm very excited to get there and get to the Smaug section for sure. But we also we meet Radagast in this book, and the bear man. There's all kinds of stuff that happens in this book.
Yep. It is a whole adventure. But yeah, it's interesting that, you know, in all the TV and cinema properties for Lord of the Rings, they very much, or I guess Middle-earth, we'll say, they condense dramatically. Because in the books, there's a reason why it takes so much time to do anything, because they're off doing like, yeah, so we tried to walk down the street, but then got caught. It's straight up just an RPG adventure. Like, we got caught up doing 18 other things, and okay, now we'll get back on our adventure. And it's like, okay.
I mean, like I was saying, most of what we read last night was like, and they got on their ponies, and then they started traveling, and they traveled for a while, and they were in the Shire for a bit, but then suddenly they were not in the Shire. And suddenly there weren't any taverns at all, and in fact, no shops. And Bilbo got sad and really wanted his kettle and wanted to be home with his things. And then it started to rain. And for not the only time on this adventure, he wished that he was home. You know, it's just like, it really is like, this is taking a while. And we want you, the reader, to realize that they are truly just plodding along, trying to get to this mountain, dude.
Yeah.
So by the time they reach the trolls, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, and I think what's funny is in the movies they do that like cut to montage of them running on like beautiful New Zealand mountains to an awesome song, and then they're there.
Yeah.
And it's like that running probably took them weeks. Like,
yeah.
They are, when you think about the end of Fellowship and in the beginning of Two Towers, the whole like, let's go hunt some orcs. The time between, like, they run to a different kingdom. Like, they're running just to a whole different, where horse lords live. Like, they're in a different land now. Well, like, that's crazy.
If I recall correctly, I've only read the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring and had trouble getting past, like, the very beginning. But if I recall correctly, Frodo just kind of sits on the ring for, like, a few years before going on his adventure.
Yes, which, it isn't as quick as the movie. It is.
Yeah, in the movies, it's like, go, keep it secret,
puts
keep
it away.
Safe. But like,
and then he shows up again. He's like, I ain't dropping no eaves, Mr. Gandalf. Right? Like, that's a whole, that's a whole other thing. But he like sits on it. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what, and that also, I guess in the movies, the interpretation of Bilbo being very old at the end is that the ring lost its power over him. But like, in the books, he's old because he's old. Like, years have gone by.
Yeah.
Like, he aged. And, I mean, obviously, it's not something that matters all that much in the storytelling of it. But, yeah, I'm sure at the time when Fellowship came out, there was someone who was like, that isn't accurate.
Wait a minute.
And it is not correct. So,
yeah. It's just, it's just difference in, like, you know, the difference between a book and a movie, but also just, you know, intentions with pacing, right? Like, how much of like a big thorough adventure do you want this to feel like?
Sure. I mean, and I see in chat the scouring of the Shire kind of matters though. Sure. But in the storytelling you're doing for a movie, it does not fit in movie storytelling. Like, it just doesn't. Like, you can't just tack on a whole other thing. Like, we did it, everyone, and now a whole other thing. Like, you just can't. You can't do that. And so I understand, and I don't think it matters all that much, truly, to what the movie was trying to show to people. But yeah, nothing's ever gonna be perfect when it comes to a movie. That's why all movies are based on. They're based on a book by. They're not, this is an actual book that we just made into a movie. Like, it's impossible. You can't do it.
I mean, they're different mediums, yeah.
Right. And I think we already had, literally, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King has 3-4 endings. Like, you can't just have another, like, an ending, a whole other story, 2 more endings. Like, you just can't do that. Like, and so I think I'm just much more forgiving when it comes to that kind of storytelling, which is probably why I'm over here like, I actually kind of enjoyed season 2 of Rings of Power. That's fine. Roast away. I don't care. Like, you know, you got to enjoy it for what it is because it's not the original thing. And same thing with like House of the Dragon. It's not the stories. Like, there's some things to love and there's some things I'm like, what the hell are they doing? This is
apparently House of the Dragon's really good. I haven't.
It is. Season 1 is incredible. Season 2 has the same vibe as when Lost was like, we don't know what we're doing yet.
Okay.
Like, a great example is Matt Smith. One of the best actors on the show. killing it. So well done. Just playing what may be the best character in all of like the George R. Martin verse. So good in season 1. Season 2, they sideline him and he's stuck in a castle for the entire season. And you're like, what are we doing? What are we doing right now? It's that kind of thing where it's very clear that like, oh, we know what we're doing with him in the future. But because his character arc, there's basically in that story, there are two people. The two, Matt Smith's character, and then I don't remember who the other actor is. Bless his sweet soul. He's very good as well. But he's just the guy with the chin and the eye patch that everyone is like, that guy has a face. Chin. Yeah. And the two of them are both like the brother of the leader. They're both like up their own butts. They think they're the best warriors in the world. And it leads to them clashing and like one of the most epic moments in all of the like Westeros verse, right? Like it's going to happen. The thing is, they're clearly like, well, the minute that happens, like we are towards the end of this story. So in order to keep it going as long as possible, we need to make sure they do not fight. So this entire season is the two of them being like really close to fighting, but not going to fight. And I hate that. It sounds
exactly like when there are characters that have like sexual tension and the writers are like, we can't let them kiss. We can't let them actually get together because then it ruins it.
Yes. Yeah. It has that. Like so the entirety of season 2 is like to war. We've tried to be friends. We can't do it anymore. To war. And then nothing happens. The last episode is soldiers marching to war. And I was like, are you kidding me? We're not even going to see the war this season. And I don't know if it's money issues or, like there's always behind the scenes things. You and I have been parts of many shows. We've done things. Budgets change. Timing changes. There's all sorts of reasons why things can change. But it's just frustrating when everyone's like, it's time to fight. Oh, let's not fight. No, we're going to fight. No, but should we fight? Okay, we're definitely fighting next season. And you're like, ugh. It's just not, it doesn't feel good to watch. And so,
gotcha.
So we'll see what happens.
Season 2 felt like a setup season more than an actual.
100%. And there was a lot of things that were unnecessary. There's a lot of scenes that like, it sucks that the two main women characters were like, in season 1, they're so much fun. In season 2, I guess everyone just became kind of boring. And they like Rhaenyra, one of the main characters, like every scene she's in, I'm like, just do something. Just do stop being indecisive. Just do anything. And it's frustrating that happens. But then they add things that I'm like, well, that's weird they added that, but I kind of like it. They added a whole storyline for Matt Smith's character where like, the trees, the red trees with like the drooping eyes and the stuff, right? That are connected to like the green folk and the people, the forest children. They gave him like a whole plot line where he's like seeing visions and stuff. And then like in one scene, there's like a Minotaur man next to the tree. And he's like, what the hell is that? And they're like, don't worry about that. And I'm like, what are they doing with this character? Here's the thing. I kind of like that. I kind of think that's cool. I like when they get weird and trippy, but it's one of those things where another great example of this whole like, oh, we're just stalling is I became very into Dragon Prince. The first 4 seasons of that were like season after season. I was like, it keeps getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
And then
really
they got
the beginning of Dragon Prince.
They got I guess they got a full series where they were like, hey, this is how many seasons we're going to give you. Tell the story. And once they had a full, we know how big this is going to get. The last 2 seasons have just been all set up for something to happen. Like the seasons just end and there is no cliffhanger. There is no like big moment. They just end and it's like, see you next season. Because we know we have these seasons. And it kind of like, I'm like, should I just wait and watch this all at once? Because clearly it's, it's that kind of vibe where I'm like, I want to be invested in what's going to happen next, but you clearly know what you're doing. So I bet if you watched it all at once, it would be awesome. But to wait a year between each season and nothing, the last season
really happens. Yeah.
Yeah. The last season, not much actually happened except finally the villain who's been behind the whole thing finally is like, oh, hey, what's up? And you're like, okay, probably next season's going to be amazing, but I just had to sit through a season where nothing happened. It's like, oh, yeah.
Like, if you're given that many seasons, use them, right? Like, use them to develop something. I love like deep dive videos about shows that have had a lot of seasons that go into like how the longer that it goes, and this happens with so many shows, they stop bothering to like develop characters. They aren't sure what to do with a bunch of people, so they just don't use them for anything. And like at the start, there's such a clear vision of what needs to be done and how the characters are supposed to grow. And then as it keeps going on, you'll be like, wait, this character got reset because apparently now they're boring because they learned their lesson. This character I saw for like 15 minutes in the entire season. Like, you know, it's just sad because if you got really invested here, then by the time you get here, you're just frustrated.
Yeah. And it's sad because I think a lot of shows start with the idea of this is what our show is. And then if it becomes a big enough success, that second season and the stuff after that, they're like, oh, we can just keep going. So whatever our focus was, well, we know where we need to get to. So let's, instead of a straight path, let's wind to get there. And in that winding, you get kind of lost in the weeds sometimes and you create a side character. And now you have all this other stuff you have to focus on and think about when you should have just to the end. And that's why shows that are hyper focused, very much like this is what our story is, turn out to be so good, even if they're, 3 seasons long.
Mm-hmm.
I see in chat Walking Dead, perfect example of we meandered way off the path. Like the first couple seasons were awesome, and then I like literally could not watch that show because I don't know who this person is. I don't care about this.
Walking Dead is such an incredible fall from grace show. Like, it was huge. Like, everybody that we knew was doing watch parties for it. Like, it was massive.
Yep.
And then at a certain point, everyone was like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. This is totally true, and it's so sad. I remember during season 8 of Game of Thrones, we used to have watch parties and stuff, and I remember one of our friends' girlfriends was, after an episode, just like started crying at how bad it was. She was like, it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I love this show and it's breaking my heart how terrible it is. I was like, yeah, that does suck. It does suck when that happens.
And then you hear about shows like Stranger Things was supposed to be a show where like each season, if they were greenlit to keep going, that each season would be its own story. Right.
Sure.
Set in like different decades. They would explore like different sort of like Twilight Zone almost-esque like stories that didn't need to like be over explained and resolved and all these things. And now it's what it is,
Yep. What's weird about it is you can see a mild attempt, I think, during season 2, where they introduce a whole other cast of characters, and people are like, that's the worst episode they've ever made. Terrible. I never want to see those characters again.
I know,
and then
exactly.
we never saw them.
That's what episode
and
you're
that
talking
makes
about,
it even more frustrating. They created a whole other group of like powered kids, and then we never saw them again. Like, why?
Apparently that was supposed to be for a spinoff. Not surprising.
Yeah, no, and that sucks. That sucks that like...
I mean,
now
that's what they did with Walking Dead, right? Is that they did all of this stuff in the last couple of seasons that were supposed to be like, and we'll see that character in our new show about so-and-so, like they were supposed to turn it into
and then
like
Poochie
a bunch
returned
of
to his home
shows.
planet at the end. Like, yeah, it sucks. It happens frequently. And again, it's because that idea of we were given this thing and not often do shows nail it. Like the amount of shows that get one season and you never hear from them again is astronomical. It's most shows. And so to have success, it does change the equation of what you've created. Suddenly you're now like, okay, I guess, yeah, no, we can come up with 4 seasons. Yeah. And then you can imagine the writers just, okay, guys, what are we going to do?
Right. I think one of my favorite versions of that as well is, hey, this show's doing really well. How many seasons did you plan for this thing to be? And they say this many. They go, okay, great. Do it. Right. And they do it. And it all like wraps up nicely. And it's all obviously planned out. And it has a good ending. And then they go, I mean, it's still really popular, though. You should just keep going. And they go, wait, but but we wrapped it all up. This is a shout out to Supernatural, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Lost, I think, is the perfect example of popularity ruining a show. Like, it was very clearly designed to be 3 seasons in the end, I think. Something like, then originally they only had the 1 season outline, and they were like, we can do it in 3. And then they made it 6 because they were just like, we'll filler it. And it's like, no, you added so much, a whole like bunch of new characters. It's obvious where it went is not where it originally was going to go. And it sucks when it's obvious. You're like, oh boy. Okay, yeah. And as a fan of that show, I remember being super into like the mystery. There was no mystery, y'all. That wasn't a mystery. It was a Matrix 3 again. Everything comes back to Matrix 3. It makes me so mad. I remember being a kid, sitting in like talking with friends about Matrix 2 and like, how is it possible that Agent Smith is in the real world? It's a Matrix in a Matrix, dude. It makes no sense otherwise. No, it just made no sense. They didn't really explain it. It just made no sense. And then it was like a Jesus allegory, and you're like, cool. Yeah, it upset me tremendously.
Shout out to the shows that needed a few more seasons.
Never got
shout
them.
out to the shows that had too many.
Yep.
God
What
bless.
would you say is a perfect? Here's the thing. I preface this by saying a lot of people say that Breaking Bad is a perfect show. I think some of the seasons towards the end, they couldn't. I feel like they could have just with that. A lot of it, but it was still an amazing show. But I don't think it's perfect. What would you say is a perfect show from start to finish?
Oh my gosh. A show that I can't remember that I feel like had a strong start and a strong end. And I never found myself being like, where are we going with this, guys? Be The Good Place. I think The Good Place is a fantastic show from start to finish. A bunch of people in chat are saying Mr. Robot. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I think Mr. Robot had some slow moments for sure.
What the hell is the name of the guy who wasn't Mr. Robot, but the dude who worked at the company who was like his like, I don't know, counter, his like antagonist? That they like misused him so much.
Yes,
towards the end. I love that character.
No spoilers, but yes, I was so frustrated with how some of the characters were used, specifically that guy for sure. But at the same time, in that last season, they did a full-on 1 camera, 1 take episode that might have been the most amazing thing I've ever seen on TV. Like they do, like that show's amazing, but is it perfect? No, by no means no. I think like Gravity Falls is good. Avatar: Last Airbender is good, but they both have like some pacing issues in different parts. They come together in the end very well, but like the beginning of the last season of Avatar, for example, is like it's kind of a slow. There's straight up an episode where they go and like, even though it's awesome, they go to the Fire Nation, and then it's kind of like meandering in the Fire Nation until we get to the end. You know, it happens. Yeah, I don't know that I would any show where the beginning of it was really different from how it ended, or like the beginning felt slower. I was less invested at the beginning. I don't know. I guess that's a bad way to put it, because of course you're less invested at the beginning, but like
sure.
Avatar: The Last Airbender, I think the first season is weaker than the rest of it.
Same with Gravity Falls.
Same with Gravity Falls. And I fucking adore Gravity Falls. I think that show is so good. And the way that they used the ciphers and the mystery, the way that they did the ARGs for that, like incredible, right? Everything surrounding that has been amazing. But when I started watching it, I was like, okay, yeah, it's all right. You know, like it took investment time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's plenty of examples of great first seasons that then peter out. Like I see I think Expanse has an amazing first season, and it's a good show. But
I've read the book. I haven't watched the show.
The show's great. It's just not like, to me, it just peters out the longer it goes on. And I think that's the case for a lot of shows where it's like, all right, yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think of one that I think nailed it. If there's one show that I think I want to see more of and was disappointed, it's probably Rome on HBO. That show was awesome. Titus was my man. That show was great. And it only got 2 seasons, and I was like, I wish I would have gotten more of that show. Wish I would have got more. I felt like it was unfinished, even though it was finished. I don't know. Like the second season felt a little rushed. Same with Spartacus. Spartacus was a dope show, and then the lead actor died, and I don't think they knew what to do with it, and they kept it going.
Right.
And then it just kind of like limped to the end of what it was. But like the first 2 seasons, first season and a half, whatever it was, were so good. And then it was like, let's keep going. And it was like, it doesn't have the same vibe. We're missing stuff. But like, there's a lot of, I don't know. I don't know that I can think of one that is like a perfect show. A Good Place for sure, I think, is also, Good Place is very good, but first season is like a perfect season of television. Like that is, from start to finish, that first season of Good Place is like, it is
so good.
Wonderful.
If you can, dear gentle viewers, gentle listeners, if you can, go into The Good Place blind.
Don't spoil yourself. Yeah.
Don't look anything up. I would say don't even read the summary. Like just watch it. Because I agree with Jesse. The first season is so good.
Yeah. I remember sitting in my living room as this first season, the last episode, and I was like, no! What? I was so happy. I was like, this is incredible. I was like, this must be the perfect season of I was like, this is just so good. I was like, brilliant. I was like, I was so just taken aback. I was like, oh, they did it. They did it. I was like, they landed this so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Band of Brothers, I think, is very good, but I think towards the end it kind of peters out a little bit. Just because their story kind of ends and wraps up, and I think some of the wrap up is kind of like, but like the Easy Company episode is like, there's so many good episodes in that. Well, the war does end. True. I mean, obviously, but yeah, like as much as I want to see David Schwimmer get his comeuppance in that, I just don't. I'm like, sorry, Ross. I just don't care. He's like, it's like, okay, sure. Yeah, I don't. Man, I can't think of one that I would say is like the perfect show. But I guess that goes to say there is no such thing, really.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah, and maybe people should stop judging shows and just enjoy for what it is, because there may not be a perfect show, and maybe that's the point.
I'm realizing that we've hit time, my dude.
All good.
So guess what, chat? Your homework is The Good Place season 1. Watch it blind. It's very
going
good.
blind. We mean this with the most sincerity. Going blind. Don't talk to anyone about it. Just watch the first season and enjoy yourself. You'll laugh the entire time, and then you'll be like, wow. Oh, wait. We have news, though, Dodgers.
But we don't have time for newses, though.
I can talk really quick. Is this
go
like
fast,
I gotta go?
Dude.
What?
Go fast.
Okay. In the news that you can use, Riot is hinting that Valorant teams maybe, kind of, sort of, maybe, are working on an Unreal Engine 5 something to create new experiences and expand the Valorant universe. What that means, who knows? Maybe they're doing something akin to what they tried to do with League, but with Valorant, I guess. I don't know a damn thing about Valorant, but I wish Overwatch had thought about doing something like that. Cool. All right. Scalpers continue to ruin everything. Obviously, the new 30th anniversary PS5 was sold out quickly and ended up on eBay and all sorts of different things. And they were taken down because everyone knew that was going to happen. In fact, it's gotten so bad that in Japan, the 30th anniversary PlayStation 5 is being restricted on who can buy it. So, congrats to Japan. Good work, Japan. Speaking of Japan, the Nintendo Museum in Japan has been having some issues where they confirmed this past Tuesday that they're limiting the sale of items from the gift shop. Everything from large Nintendo controller cushions to console keychains to mugs and famous characters and all these different. Basically, they're being scalped because scalpers ruin everything, and I hate them. Speaking of Nintendo, hey, apparently Pal World and their peers don't give a damn about the legal threats Nintendo is throwing their way, because immediately after Nintendo went after them, they showed up in the State of Play, and then now PUBG's owners, Krafton, are signing with them to release it on mobile games. So apparently no one cares about Nintendo. And
amazing.
As we discussed before earlier, Metaphor, Refantazio and Silent Hill 2 are coming. The updated Silent Hill 2, and we got some early reviews from Famitsu. Apparently, Metaphor is getting 9s and 10s across the board, and Silent Hill got all 9s and 8. And the way they kind of do it over there is they do it out of 40. So basically, Silent Hill got 3 9s and an 8, and Metaphor got 3 9s and a 10. And that's all that. They come out on Metaphor is the 11th, and I think Silent Hill 2 is the 8th. I don't remember. It's one of those days.
Hot top.
But that's it. That's the news. I did it as fast as I could.
You did it great. That was lightning round type news.
Thanks, boss.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Jessup, what's going on with you now that you're back in the United States? What can people expect from you this week?
Well, filming more Scary Game Squad stuff today with the boys. And then tomorrow, Jesse, Dodger, Crendor, Baldur's Gate 3, Goblins.
I'm skipping date night to be a goblin. So.
First off, thank you. Second off, why can't the three of us go on date night as goblins in Baldur's Gate 3?
You know what? I'll hit up Sam and be like, we're going to be goblins, but not you.
Yeah, you're not welcome. First off, you're not welcome. We can't make a handsome goblin, okay? It's just impossible. It's not, the functionality doesn't exist.
No Gabio.
Okay?
I can't be Gabio.
Is Gabio a thing you've had in your back pocket and you just been...
I'll send you pictures.
I love Gabio. That's amazing. That's us tomorrow. What time?
Yeah.
I don't know. 1 p.m. PST.
Probably that. Yep.
Yep.
Fantastic. Yeah. You know, I'm just doing my thing. I'm gonna be a goblin with these yahoos, and then just playing a bunch of games. I hope not getting sick, not getting flooded in. Fingers crossed. You know, all that and more. So that's it for us. Thanks so much for watching Geekenders, everybody. Hey, if you want to watch this later, or if you want to watch previous episodes, you can find them on youtube.com/Jesse Cox. And also, we're on all of the podcasty things. So if you want to just listen to our gorgeous voices, you can do that wherever you listen to podcasts.
200,000 views. Dodger tattoos. Think about it. You could make it happen. You could make it happen. The offer's perpetually on the table.
You could put a weird mushroom on Jesse.
I could have a weird mushroom on my body.
So let's use our eyeballs for good or evil.
Yep. You can
however
do it.
you want to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of yourselves, guys. Have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you next Friday.
Bye-bye.
The pre-show thing was still up. Embarrassing.
Yeah, you know what time it is. It's time for the Geekenders podcast. MegaRan, Jesse and Dodger, what up? Let's go. Yo, it's the weekend. Yeah, it's time to geek out. Let it begin. Go on, stream and shout. It's Jesse and Dodger, so give them a follow and see what the Geekenders are all about. Yo, it's the weekend. Yeah, it's time to geek out. Let it begin. Go on, stream and shout. It's Jesse and Dodger, so give them a follow. #1 geek podcast, without a doubt. Yo, another end of another long week. Got a job and a kid, I know that you all beat. So take a second, grab a drink and vibe while we catch you up in just a matter of time. On gaming, comics, whatever you're doing. If you're nerdy like us, then you know you should tune in. Thank you for sharing our world with us. Now follow, subscribe, and turn this up. Yo, it's the weekend. Yeah, it's time to geek out. Let it begin. Go on, stream and shout. It's Jesse and Dodger, so give them a follow. #1 geek podcast, without a doubt.